The weight of it all is a constant companion now, a shadow clinging to my every move, my every thought, my every forced smile. It started so subtly, a whisper of discontent, a gentle nudge toward a path I never imagined I would walk. I look at Mark across the dinner table, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners, as he tells a story about his day, and a sharp stab of guilt pierces through me. He laughs his familiar, easy laugh, and I manage a weak smile, a performance I have perfected over months of living a double life. A life built on lies and stolen moments, and the slow, agonizing erosion of everything we built together. I remember when it was just us, when our world felt complete and unshakable. We were young then, full of dreams and the kind of innocent trust that only time and betrayal can shatter. Mark was my rock, my safe harbor, my best friend. He still is, in many ways, but a part of me has sailed away to a different shore, a dangerous, enticing shore, where another man waits, where another life flickers with a deceptive intensity. I never intended for this to happen. I tell myself this lie so often it almost sounds true now. It was never my intention to hurt him, to dismantle our shared history, to become this stranger who hides secrets in plain sight. It began about 2 years ago. I think, though, the exact timeline blurs into a hazy memory of restless nights and unsatisfying days. Our relationship had settled into a comfortable routine, too comfortable perhaps, a predictable rhythm of work, home dinner, television sleep. The passion had faded not entirely, but enough for a dull ache of longing to take root within me. Mark was still loving, still attentive in his own way, but the spark, the electric connection we once shared, seemed to have dimmed. He never noticed, or if he did, he never spoke of it. And I was too afraid to disturb the peace, too comfortable in the quiet, unspoken understanding of our long years together. Then David walked into my life. He was new at the marketing firm, a consultant brought in for a big project. His eyes were sharp, his humor quick, his attention unwavering. He saw me not just Mark's partner or a colleague, but me, Sarah, a woman with her own thoughts, her own desires, her own unmet needs. He listened in a way Mark hadn't in years, or maybe I hadn't allowed Mark to listen. He saw the flicker of something in me that I thought had long since been extinguished. The first time we had coffee, it was strictly professional, of course, but there was an undercurrent, a subtle electricity that hummed between us. Later, a working lunch stretched into an evening drink. Then another after work, a casual chat that turned into an intense conversation about life dreams, disappointments. He was everything. Mark wasn't at that moment exciting, unpredictable, a breath of fresh air, and I was a moth drawn to a flame, knowing it could burn, but unable to resist its warmth, its light. The first kiss was accidental, a moment of shared vulnerability, a late-night goodbye that lingered too long. It tasted of forbidden fruit, of danger, of a thrilling, terrifying freedom. And I was lost. The affair started slowly, a series of small betrayals, each one easier to commit than the last. The guilt was present right from the beginning, a cold knot in my stomach. But it was overshadowed by the intoxicating rush of being desired, of feeling alive again, in a way I hadn't felt in years. The lies began as simple omissions, late nights at work, extended meetings, fictitious errands. Then they grew more elaborate, a web of deceit that entangled every aspect of my life. I became an expert at balancing two worlds, two identities, two versions of myself, the confident, alluring woman with David, the loyal, loving partner with Mark. It was exhausting, a constant performance that left me drained and hollow. Every time Mark would look at me with that trusting gaze, my heart would ache a little more. His kindness, his unwavering faith in me became a torment. Each shared laugh, each tender touch felt like a lie, a betrayal amplified by his innocence. I would find myself pulling away, physically, emotionally, sometimes even subtly, pushing him away, hoping to create a distance that would somehow justify my actions. But it never did. It only made the guilt heavier, the secret more suffocating. David was everything the affair promised. He made me feel beautiful, intelligent, desired. He would whisper sweet nothings, promises of a future that felt bright and exhilarating. But even with him, even in the peak of our stolen moments, there was always a part of me standing outside, observing a part of me that knew this was not sustainable, this was not real, this was built on sand, not rock. The thrill was addictive, but the underlying fear was a constant tremor beneath the surface. The fear of discovery, the fear of losing everything, the fear of facing the woman I had become. There were close calls, of course. A forgotten earring in David's car, a text message that flashed across my phone screen. While Mark was sitting beside me, a friend who almost saw us leaving a restaurant. I perfected the art of deflection, of changing the subject, of manufacturing plausible excuses. Each near miss sent a jolt of terror through me, followed by a renewed sense of urgency to be more careful, more cunning. The stakes were too high, I told myself, to be sloppy. The truth was the stakes were already too high, and I was losing myself in the process. The relationship with Mark began to suffer not overtly, not with dramatic fights, but with a slow, insidious decay. The unspoken words, the growing distance, the subtle shifts in our dynamic. He noticed my preoccupation, my frequent late nights, my irritability. My excuses became thinner, more transparent. Our conversations grew superficial, devoid of the intimacy we once shared. We still lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, but the emotional chasm between us widened with every lie I told, every secret I kept. I tried to justify it to myself, to minimize the damage. I told myself, Mark and I had grown apart, that this was inevitable, that David was just a catalyst for what was already happening. But deep down, a voice, a small, insistent voice, kept reminding me that I was the architect of this destruction, that I was actively dismantling a life that many would envy, a life that once brought me genuine contentment. Then David started pushing for more. He wanted me to leave Mark to commit fully to him. He spoke of a future together, a life free of secrets, a life where we could be open and honest. His words, though appealing, felt like another cage, a different kind of confinement. I realized then that my desire for him was intertwined with the forbidden nature of our relationship. With Mark, I had stability and history. With David, I had excitement and novelty, but also uncertainty and a constant reminder of my betrayal. I was caught between two worlds, neither of which felt entirely mine any longer. The pressure became unbearable. I stopped sleeping properly. My mind raced constantly, replaying conversations, rehearsing lies, planning escapes. The guilt became a physical burden, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I looked at myself in the mirror one morning, a stranger with haunted eyes staring back at me. The vibrant woman David claimed to see was gone, replaced by a ghost of my former self, a woman consumed by her own deceit. The end came not with a bang, but with a whimper. Mark found a message, a simple, innocuous message from David on my phone. Not hidden well enough. He didn't scream or shout. He just looked at me with an expression of such profound hurt. such deep devastation, that it shattered whatever fragile defenses I had left. His eyes held, not anger but a crushing disbelief, a silent question that screamed louder than any accusation. "Who are you, and what have you done to us?" I confessed. Everything poured out of me, a torrent of shame and regret and belated honesty. He listened, his face pale, his eyes fixed on some distant point. He didn't interrupt, didn't raise his voice. He just sat there, absorbing the blows, one after another, as I laid bare the ugliness of my actions. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark testament to the wreckage I had created. The aftermath was a blur of tears and accusations and a heartbreaking sorrow I had never witnessed before. The trust was irrevocably broken. He couldn't look at me the same way. The foundation of our entire relationship crumbled to dust. It was over. Not with a dramatic flourish, but with the quiet, dignified collapse of a love that had once been so strong. He asked me to leave. I packed a bag, a small bag, leaving behind 2 decades of memories, the ghost of a shared future, the lingering scent of a life I had foolishly thrown away. David was there for a while, of course. He offered comfort, a shoulder to cry on, a promise of new beginnings. But even with him, the guilt remained a persistent echo in my mind. The excitement that had once defined our connection had faded, replaced by the stark reality of what I had sacrificed, the pain I had caused. Our relationship felt different now, stripped of the thrilling danger that had fueled it. It felt smaller somehow, less significant, weighed down by the heavy burden of its origins. I sit alone now in a small apartment far from the home Mark and I built, far from the life I once knew. The silence here is different, not the comfortable quiet of shared understanding, but the empty, hollow silence of loneliness. I replay it all in my head, the choices, the excuses, the moments of weakness, and the deliberate acts of betrayal. I gained fleeting moments of excitement, a temporary escape from routine, but I lost something far more precious, something irreplaceable. The respect of the man I loved, the integrity of my own character, the peace of a clear conscience. There is no happy ending to this story. Not yet, perhaps not ever. There is only the long, slow process of reckoning with my own choices, with the woman I became, and the profound damage I inflicted. I shattered a good man's heart, and in doing so, I shattered a part of myself. The price of infidelity, I have learned, is far greater than any momentary thrill it offers. It is paid not in money or possessions, but in trust, in love, in the very essence of who you are and who you once hoped to be.